This video is going to cover how I cut the cord by installing this antenna in my attic. These are parts that I purchased back in 2014. These parts may possibly be higher, but for the most part I'm under $160. I even cut costs by purchasing a 100-foot RCA coaxial cable from a dollar store. The next clip is going to be a video outlining the process. First thing you want to do is locate the wire coming in from the street for the internet, and it's this wire right here. Now this job is already finished. I'm just going to recap what I did. So I split this off. Currently this is going to the internet, but that's the only one wire, and you want to, it depends on whether or not your house is already wired for cable with multiple televisions. That may not be a thing, but if it is, where you do have cable that was wired previously into multiple rooms, this is what you want to do. And that's actually the ideal situation because you don't have to run any wire. So this diagram right here is showing you what this looked like before, and we see these two splitters, splitter 1 and splitter 2. Before doing this job, this wire, which was the cable coming in, it was going into this splitter, and then it was going to the router modem, then this was going off to TV 1, then this split off into another splitter, and then this was going to 2 more additional TVs, which was going into each room. But what I did was, I really just needed those wires that were run, and what I did was, take all of that stuff out, but then I took those wires, which were actually running to the television, and then I ran them into this box that's right here, which is another amplifier splitter. Now I'm not trying to get into a discussion about ohms and decibels and what splitters do, but taking a look at this diagram, trying to recap, and I'll address this later on, what they did was they split that out into those TVs and then the internet, and it's just a whole bunch of splitters, and you really don't need that. What you really need are the wires. Now I put 3 wires right here because this is actually what it looked like. I had those 3 television wires, and then I just took them. This is obviously not going anywhere, but I'm just giving you an example. When I was done removing all those television wires, I actually did have these wires that would run into those rooms. So then these were then just rerouted, and as I mentioned before, then they just went into the box. Now the job here is to try to come up with an antenna that's in the ceiling, coming through the ceiling, that's inside the roof. And I don't want to get into a conversation about the appropriate way to mount an antenna. I'm afraid of heights. I'm not trying to go up on a roof, so I have to put this in my attic, and I have outstanding reception. But for the most part, this wire is coming from the attic, and it's going through a bedroom closet, and then that wire, if you trace it, is this wire right here, and then it goes in this direction, and I can't really figure out which wire it is here, but it's going to the inbox, to the input here, and then each one is going to a separate television. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 TVs that are hooked up utilizing this. Now, ultimately, one of the things you want to focus on here is the type of TV and the old, whether or not you have an older television. This is the oldest TV that I have, and it's just down here if I'm just doing anything. And I actually have a converter box that's here, but this TV gets good reception. The only thing I would say is that the other TVs definitely are better with regard to, they have menus and things of that particular nature. Here, this thing's getting ready to boot up, I guess. Let's see. So here's one television that's hooked up, and currently looking at channel 11. And one thing you come to find out is that the FCC requires stations to actually have multiple substations. So channel 11 actually has an 11.1, an 11.2, which gives you an antenna television, 11.3, which gives you court TV, and then you get 11.4, which is rewind TV. And that's just this television right here, channel 2. Let's see. Here we have a basketball game, but then they have 2.2. I guess that's Start TV. I don't even know what this is. DABL. And we'll move to another television. You can see again the reception quality. There's another television. This TV is probably about 6 years old. Cozy TV. So here we have the main TV, 65-inch. This one's a little newer, so you actually have a guide here. I'll let you know what's on television. Now here's the antenna that's sitting in the attic, and it's facing through this window. I don't have it facing in this direction because it would just be an obstruction with the wall, but I'm trying to point it in the direction of New York City. When I face it to the rear of the home, I can actually pick up channels from Philly, but New York just seems to have better reception. Sometimes I could pick up both if I move it in the middle, but I just kind of leave it here. And here we see the wire. This is the wire, probably about an hour from Philly, maybe 45 minutes from New York City, depending on traffic. And that is the wire that's just going down into the basement. It's going through the first floor closet down to the basement. You pick the 100 feet up at a dollar store, regular RCA wire. I didn't buy into the hype of having gold-plated special wire that is going to, deal with decibels and length. I actually have not had much of an issue. And what I did is just place a 2x4 right here, and it's just going down, and it's holding up with the bracket right there. And I'll recap, I'll trace this wire and put some additional directions in a second. Here is the wire. I was previously in the attic, and the wire just came down, and it just runs straight through this closet, all the way down, straight into the basement. And here we are back in the basement. We started out in the attic, went through the closet, and this is the cable wire. The cable wire then is on this particular beam, which is running behind, drops down, and right into this. And I'll be putting in some images showing you all of the parts that were purchased. And there you see all of the rerouted former cable wires that were going into rooms, and now they are going into this amplifier, and that is giving me television reception for 8 TVs. Here we see the floor plan for the house. There's a television in this room, this room, as well as this room, and the wire is coming in from this particular point from the basement. Here we see once again the splitter that was used, the amplifier that was purchased on Amazon, and then we see the diagram that I explained prior, and I'll be coming back to this later on. Here's kind of the way the house was wired with cable. The cable line had come in. I'll be using a yellow color here. The cable wire came in, and I showed this in the video right here, and then it went into the internet for the modem, and then it split into 2 splitters, and then those 2 splitters were going into those various rooms, as well as the 3 TVs in the basement. Now there is a debate about the more splitters you use, the decibels winds up reducing, which reduces picture quality, and that might be the case. I'm not trying to get involved in that particular conversation, but this video is really trying to show how to use the cable wire. For the most part, what I did was I eliminated this section because I'm going to really just be using these wires. And then all of these cable wires that were run by the cable company, they were then going into the splitter that was purchased on Amazon, which means I'm pretty much just using all of the wire from the cable company. Now, if your home isn't wired with cable, that could be a problem, because then you have to run all of these individual lines on your own. And as I mentioned before, this is pretty much what I did, was I used the amplifier and all of the existing cable wire, and then I just ran them into this particular box. Why? Because the antenna is now sending the signal to the input on this amplifier, and then the amplifier is sending the signal to each individual television. Take note that these caps were purchased and the cap was used because the splitter, the amplifier, can actually hook up to 8 televisions, but since this one is not being used, these caps apparently are used to improve picture quality as opposed to having it left open. Don't really know too much about that other than things that I've read with reviews. And this is the existing cable wire that was in the video, and what I did was, this is coming in from the street, and then this is running into the modem. Technically, this wire that is in the video right here is this wire going into the modem, and I bypass. Again, I'm just trying to show how to use all of the existing cable wire into your roof antenna. When you're done with your wiring, you're going to log on to this website, and you're going to use your phone. It is going to ask for your address, and it's going to give you your coordinates. Based on the coordinates, you want to point this antenna into the direction of the coordinates that the website here is giving you. And for me, I live about 45 minutes from New York, about 50 minutes from Philly, and so when I point this antenna into the direction of New York, I pick up New York channels. If I point it to the south of the house, I can pick up Philly channels. And it's sometimes, if I place the antenna in the middle of the home, I can pick up a mixture of the two. If you notice, I did have some aluminum foil that was placed on the antenna. It's just me messing around to see if I could pick up any additional channels. And for the most part, you can. It might be a little bit of trial and error to figure out, what's the best point of vision for the antenna to pick up some of those signals. This is what the website looks like. What's going on here is, when you go onto the website and you put in your address, it's going to tell you the direction that you should be facing this antenna. And it might even matter UHF, VHF, which type of antenna. When you look at the website, it does provide some antenna options based on your location. And then for my purpose, or where I'm at, this was what the website indicated, the signals that would be strong. And for the most part, I get about 60 something channels. Some of them are repeat channels. One TV might pick up like 82. You get a couple of audio channels. And as I mentioned before, some of my TVs are newer. I have a Samsung that's about 2 years old, and that TV gets great reception. That TV has a really good tuner. But for a regular old television, you're probably going to need to pick up some sort of analog converter box, and you might not get that great of reception, or the amount of channels, and that's really a result of the tuner. So don't let the antenna fool you. It might be an issue with the tuner, and you are going to have to scan your television, use your television to scan the channels. And here I see the cable bill. As I mentioned, I did this in 2014, and I calculated that 101 months at about $65, which is what I'm currently paying for internet. And I saved about this amount of money, about $6,500. Subtract the $150 for material, and I'm still making a substantial amount of money by doing this. I do have Hulu, but that's pretty much my limit. I refuse to get anything additional because I'm trying to keep the cost down. And that's it. If this video helped, like and subscribe to this channel, and make sure that you watch your TV channels, some of those old TV shows with your remote. Here you are watching television with anyone that you choose to watch television with, and maybe this person's just a little upset because they don't want to watch Three's Company or whatever. That's it.